For most of my life, people have asked me one question. After racing against the best drivers in the world, who are the greatest Formula One drivers I've ever seen? That answer has never been as simple as counting championships or victories. I've always believed greatness is measured by talent, courage, consistency, and what a driver does when everything is on the line. Over the years, I've watched some extraordinary racers redefine what's possible behind the wheel. Today, I'm sharing the 5 Formula One drivers who earned my respect the most, and why each of them deserves a place among the greatest I've ever seen. At number 5, I've chosen a driver whose talent spoke louder than words, Jim Clark. I had the privilege of racing during the same era as Jim, and I can tell you there weren't many drivers who could make a race car look as effortless as he did. While most of us fought the steering wheel every lap, Jim seemed to glide around a circuit with a level of precision that was almost impossible to explain. It wasn't flashy, it was simply natural. That's what impressed me the most. People often remember Jim for winning 2 Formula One World Championships with Lotus, but those titles only tell part of the story. Formula One in the 1960s was incredibly dangerous. Every driver understood the risks the moment they climbed into the cockpit. Yet Jim never let that pressure change the way he drove. He stayed calm, smooth, and remarkably consistent, even against the toughest competition in the world. What earned my respect even more was his versatility. I've always believed the greatest racing drivers shouldn't be limited to one type of car. Jim proved that better than almost anyone. Whether it was Formula One, sports cars, touring cars, or Indianapolis, he adapted faster than most people thought possible. In 1965, he came to the Indianapolis 500 and won it in dominant fashion. That wasn't just another victory. It proved he could master a completely different style of racing against some of America's best drivers. Very few Formula One champions have ever accomplished something like that. Jim never chased attention or tried to become the biggest personality in the paddock. He let his performances speak for him, and they spoke louder than any interview ever could. Every time he climbed into a race car, you knew you were watching someone special. His life was cut tragically short in 1968, and motorsport lost one of its purest talents far too soon. I'll always wonder how much more he could have achieved if he'd been given more time. For me, Jim Clark will always deserve a place among the greatest Formula One drivers I've ever seen. But the next man on my list didn't just win races. He changed the way the entire sport thought about driving. At number 4, I've got a man who combined incredible speed with something every great driver needs: intelligence. That man is Jackie Stewart. From the moment Jackie arrived in Formula One, it was obvious he had something special. He wasn't just quick over one lap. He understood races better than almost anyone else. He knew when to attack, when to protect the car, and when patience would win him more than raw aggression ever could. I've always respected drivers who used their heads as much as their hands, and Jackie did exactly that. He won 3 Formula One World Championships during one of the toughest periods the sport has ever seen. In those days, the danger was impossible to ignore. Circuits had very little runoff. Safety standards were nowhere near what they are today, and losing friends and competitors was an unfortunate reality. Every victory came with enormous risk. What impressed me was that Jackie never let those dangers stop him from racing at the highest level. Instead, he became one of the strongest voices for improving safety in motorsport. At the time, not everyone agreed with him. Some believed racing should never change. But Jackie understood that protecting drivers didn't make the sport weaker. It gave future generations the chance to keep competing. That took courage of a different kind. On the track, he was incredibly smooth and efficient. He rarely wasted movement behind the wheel, and he had an amazing ability to read changing conditions. Whether the circuit was dry or soaked with rain, Jackie always seemed to know exactly how much grip was available. That's the kind of instinct you can't teach. I've always admired drivers who could stay calm under pressure, and Jackie was one of the very best. He didn't need reckless moves to prove how fast he was. More often than not, he'd already beaten you before the final laps because he'd managed the race better than everyone else. When I think about complete racing drivers, Jackie Stewart is always part of that conversation. His championships, his intelligence, and his impact on the sport earned my respect long ago. But the next driver on my list possessed something almost impossible to describe. He drove with a level of speed and determination that made even the greatest competitors stop and watch. At number 3, I've got a man many people still consider the greatest Formula One driver of all time, Juan Manuel Fangio. By the time I was making my name in racing, Fangio had already become a legend. I didn't race against him the way I did some of the others on this list, but I watched the standard he set, and every driver who came after him was measured against it. 5 world championships might not sound extraordinary today, but in Fangio's era, it was almost unbelievable. The cars were incredibly powerful, the circuits were unforgiving, and safety was practically non-existent. Drivers weren't just racing each other, they were racing against mechanical failures, dangerous tracks, and the constant possibility that one mistake could end everything. To dominate under those conditions took a rare combination of talent, courage, and discipline. That's what always stood out to me. Fangio wasn't known for wild, spectacular driving. He won because he understood every part of the race. He knew how to preserve his tires, protect the car, and strike at exactly the right moment. While others relied on aggression, Fangio relied on precision. He made difficult races look almost routine, and that's one of the hardest things any driver can do. Another reason I respect him so much is his adaptability. He won world championships with different teams, proving his success wasn't tied to one car or one organization. No matter where he raced, he found a way to get the best out of the machinery. That's the mark of a truly complete driver. I've always believed the greatest champions don't just have speed, they have judgment. They know when to push, when to wait, and how to finish races that others can't. Fangio mastered those qualities long before modern technology gave drivers extra advantages. His influence reached far beyond his own generation. Drivers who became legends themselves looked at Fangio as the benchmark. When the best racers in history admire one man, that tells you everything you need to know. For me, Juan Manuel Fangio earned his place among the greatest because he proved that intelligence and consistency could be just as powerful as outright speed. But the next driver on my list brought something different. He raced with unmatched intensity, extraordinary precision, and a relentless desire to be faster than everyone else, every single weekend. At number 2, I've chosen a driver who could do things behind the wheel that very few people have ever matched, Ayrton Senna. I've watched a lot of great racers over the years, but Senna had a quality that separated him from almost everyone else. The moment the visor came down, his focus was absolute. He demanded perfection from himself, and more often than not, he delivered it. What always amazed me was his speed over a single lap. Qualifying wasn't just another session for Senna. It was an opportunity to show exactly what he could do. Time after time, he found extra speed that nobody else seemed able to find. Even against world-class competition, he had a way of putting his car on pole that left people wondering where those final few tenths had come from. But Senna wasn't just fast on Saturdays. When the race started, he drove with an intensity that few drivers could match. If there was a gap, he believed it was there to be taken. That determination made him one of the fiercest competitors Formula One has ever seen. Some people thought he pushed the limits too far, but nobody ever questioned his commitment to winning. Then there was the rain. Every generation has drivers who are good in wet conditions, but Senna seemed to become even stronger when the weather turned bad. While others searched for grip, he looked completely comfortable, finding speed where nobody else could. Watching him control a Formula One car in those conditions was something every racing fan should have experienced. I also respected the pressure he carried. Racing for a team like McLaren and representing Brazil on the world stage meant expectations followed him everywhere. Instead of running from that pressure, he embraced it. The bigger the moment, the better he seemed to perform. His career ended far too soon at Imola in 1994, and the entire motorsport world felt that loss. We weren't just losing a three-time world champion, we were losing a driver who still had so much more to give. For me, Ayrton Senna wasn't simply one of the fastest Formula One drivers ever. He was one of the most gifted racing talents I've ever witnessed. And that brings me to the one driver I place above everyone else. The man who in my eyes defined complete excellence in Formula One. At number one, I've chosen the driver who, in my opinion, set the standard for modern Formula One greatness, Michael Schumacher. When people talk about the greatest drivers in history, Schumacher's name is always near the top, and for good reason. Winning 7 world championships is an incredible achievement, but what impressed me wasn't just the number of titles, it was the way he earned them. Michael approached racing with a level of preparation and commitment that raised the bar for everyone around him. He didn't leave success to chance. He worked tirelessly with his engineers, studied every circuit in detail, and constantly searched for ways to improve both himself and the car. That's the mindset every champion should have. I've always believed that talent alone isn't enough. Plenty of drivers are naturally fast. The truly great ones combine talent with discipline, determination, and an unmatched work ethic. Schumacher had all of those qualities. Behind the wheel, he could adapt to almost anything. Whether the race was dry, wet, hot, or unpredictable, he found a way to stay competitive. He had an incredible ability to deliver when everything was on the line, and that's what separated him from so many others. What also stands out to me is the role he played in Ferrari's return to the top. When he joined the team, championships didn't come overnight. It took years of hard work, patience, and building the right group of people around him. Once everything came together, Ferrari dominated Formula One in a way the sport had rarely seen before. That's not just the work of a fast driver, that's the work of a leader. Every generation produces champions, but only a handful change the standard by which future champions are judged. Schumacher was one of those rare drivers. Young racers didn't just want to beat him, they wanted to become him. That's why I place Michael Schumacher at the top of my list. He combined extraordinary speed with relentless dedication, remarkable consistency, and an unwavering desire to win. Those are the qualities I've always admired in any race car driver, no matter what series they competed in. These 5 men each left Formula One better than they found it. But if you're asking me who stands at the very top, my answer is Michael Schumacher. Looking back, I've been fortunate to witness some of the greatest racing talent the world has ever known. Every driver on this list earned my respect in a different way. Some amazed me with their natural speed, others with their intelligence, courage, or relentless determination. Ranking legends is never easy, because every era presents its own challenges. But if there's one thing I've learned after a lifetime in racing, It's that true greatness isn't measured by trophies alone. It's measured by the impact you leave on the sport. These 5 drivers did exactly that, and they'll always have my admiration.